Shalom, giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael, of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This is Hebrew lesson or Hebrew class 5, review of lessons 1 through 4. This is a presentation being brought to you from Shema Yisrael, Hebrew Israelite congregation based in New York. What we're going to go over is a review as stated from lessons 1 through 4 in the Hebrew class presentation. Want to give due respect to Nasi Zipor, as well as Nasi Natan El and Chief Natan El as well. Also, want to give due respect to my Hebrew teacher, Kohen Mikael. I want to take a brief moment in this particular aspect in time to speak about the matter regarding Israelites that happened last week in New York. There was, unfortunately, a fire that went through one of the congregations, one of the camps in New York. And the name of that particular camp was and is B'nai Adat, based in Brooklyn, New York. That place to me held sentimental value in that that's where I learned how to get over my fear, negative fear, in regards to Hebrew. I remember being called up at the age of 11, to go and read the Hebrew there, and Bereshit bara Elohim et hashemayim ve'et haaretz, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 through Genesis 1, verse 5. I'm 37 now, giving thanks to the Most High. I was 11 at that particular age. So when this situation unfortunately happened, it did hit me personally and touch me negatively. And it made me have a spirit to wonder and feel I wanted to, in my own way, kind of fall back for a little while, not permanently. Permanently would mean that one is throwing in the towel. We're not throwing in the towel. The Most High didn't shed this knowledge from my elders to me, and then even allow me to be a tool to even teach younger people the language. Because on Shabbat, in the congregation here, Shema Yisrael, we have Hebrew classes. And as you see, we have Hebrew classes here live online. So there's more than one class that's being conducted in Hebrew coming out of this camp. But my particular roots, pardon me, my branches, as far as the Hebraic aspect goes back to B'nai Adat. Let me explain this in this particular regard. All right. My personal roots go back to Kol She'erit, where I had my first Hebrew class in 1984. As a little boy, 4 years old, didn't really pay attention fully, but I remember certain vowels that was being explained like it was yesterday, even when I was only 4 years old. Then that's the roots of that. Then we had it to where we was in B'nai Adat. That's where I will personally call like the branches, if you will, as far as getting into Hebrew, because by then I'm able to sit there and read the Hebrew. I'm able to sit there and be taught, may he rest in peace, under Moreh Hoshea, that actually came out of Hashaba Yisrael, but was in B'nai Adat, and he showed me how to write the ancient Hebrew. You understand? So that right there is sentimental to me. So my elders, some of them who have passed away, have actually hands down put their time in. The elder, may he rest in peace, that encouraged me to get into deep Hebrew was a man by the name of Adon Aharon Ben Zebulun. And I remember he used to have what they called the first grade Hebrew book and the second grade Hebrew book. And he used to go over certain things with me in that particular regard, and it made me sit back and think when I will begin into the reading, and he will say, okay, now this step is now this. Okay, this step is now this. It was never a thing in which one was allowed to slack, if you will, as far as knowing and getting into the Hebraic understanding. One thought I had, I remember, was in Beni Adat in 1991 when I was a little boy. And I said, wow, Hebrew seems to be hard. Why is it that the people couldn't just be speaking English back then? And that particular teacher, like I stated, may he rest in peace, in Beni Adat in 1991, his name, as stated, was Adon Aharon Ben Zebulon. And he said, no, we are the Hebrews. So therefore, we have to speak the Hebrew. You don't hope that the ancient Hebrew spoke English because it seems already easier because that's what you're speaking now. What you're doing, him speaking to me, what you're doing is you're going to have to be able to challenge yourself to accept that as yours and then be able to grasp it and have the wind behind your back. And it may seem deeper than just, okay, it's just some letters and vowels. But when you have a fear of something or the unknown or that kind of thing, that's the kind of spirit that you should take to have the, as the saying goes, the ruach akarrecha. You understand? The wind behind your back or the wind behind you to push you forward into that. And these are things that help encourage me. So now when we get, and there was no disrespect intended to anything in regards to Beni Adat, but where we lived, my family at the time was living in a place in Queens, and Hashaba Yisrael was also in Queens. So the only reason why we never had no problem, static, beef, contention, or anything like that in Beni Adat, because for those who truly know the deeper history, my mother, may she rest in peace, Gaveret Nifla'a, was married in Beni Adat, even though that winded up in another divorce, but that's another subject for another time. But the point I'm saying is it just goes to show how much sentimental value that particular place has held to me. And without that, there would be no branches into the Hebrew as far as my personal life. So now by the time 2016 comes and I'm asked and accepted, and I give thanks to the Most High to be the Hebrew teacher in Shema Yisrael, you don't forget where you come from, and then you still got to sit there and continue on. See, the Tanakh says a time to mourn and a time to weep, a time to laugh and a time to dance. It's a time for everything. So now that in my own personal life, that kind of thing has already, subsided as far as the feelings is concerned, the work still has to continue and to go on. And this is something that want to be talked about. Anybody who can't or refuse to understand that premise, that's just your problem. Once it comes down into that particular case, the next thing in regards to that particular matter is this. When we got into Hashaba Yisrael, Kohen Mikael had a class that was referred to as Kita Sika, which means class of conversation. And we would go over the alphabet, vowels, but by that time, we was already dealing with verbs. So the word katab was said right. And then it went from there to certain kinds of how verbs work. The Ayin wow verb, we're in the past tense. Anytime you have a verb as the second letter is a wow or a yod, it drops off when you conjugate it in the past tense and so forth. So I consider Hashaba for my personal life as the leaves or the fruit of the tree that came. So you had the root, the branches, and then the leaves. And that's my own personal 2 cents in regards to my personal life as far as Hebrew is concerned. You understand? What we're attempting to do in this congregation, Shema Israel, and having the Hebrew classes continue on is you're passing a baton on. You're passing the legacy on. You're passing the truth on in regards to us teaching this particular aspect in language. All right. So this right here, okay, I know that was an extended introduction, but this right here is Hebrew lesson number 5. All right, in which we go over brother and sisters, the Hebrew aspect. Okay, now we're going to be reviewing from lessons 1 through 4. And it says the letter Aleph, the first letter, and has no set sound. The sound of the vowel alone is what is expressed when reading or speaking. The meaning of Aleph is thousand or clan. Aleph as a verb means to teach. So that's something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right. So the letter that you see there is called the letter Aleph. All right. And notes concerning it is on the right hand side. Next slide. Thank you. What you're looking at here is the letter Bet, said by some in later form of Hebrew as vet. Now, bet and vet have the same numerical value, has the same meaning. The reason why some people say vet is this particular letter without the dot within it. That dot that you see in it is referred to as a dagesh. So now, some people state when you don't see it in there, it makes the V sound. But the V sound in Hebrew, as in vet, basically comes when certain people are unable to pronounce certain things with all B sounds within it, such as Abiba, such as Elishaba. All right. So some people state as Aviva or Elishiva, but in actuality, it really makes the B sound in that particular case. All right. So we just want that to be pointed out for edification purposes. The meaning of bet is house. Next slide. Thank you. What we're looking at here is the letter Gamel. This letter makes the G sound as in go. All right. The meaning of Gamel in verb form means to deal fully, or in a noun form, it means camel. All right. So we want that to be noted for edification purposes. As we went over before, whatever it starts with is the sound of mix. So therefore, bet will make like a B sound and Gamel the G sound. All right. So we're going to continue on in this particular regard. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. This, what you're looking at right here, is the letter Dalit, and it makes the D sound. This letter never drops out, regardless if in a verb, a noun, or an adjective. All right, that will be explained as we go along further. The meaning of Dalit is door. All right, so we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about. All right, it makes the stated the D sound. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at here is the letter hey, and it makes the H sound. All right. It serves as the prefix in many cases in Hebrew verbs. This is the thumb of the Hebrew alphabet, according to what I teach. The meaning of hey means behold or window. All right. So this is just something I want to point out for edification purposes. Now, when you look at this particular aspect, right? And I'll present the letter hey as the thumb of the Hebrew alphabet, brothers and sisters, simply is because the without hey, you don't have any causative. And heaven forbid, someone without a thumb is very, very limited in what he or she is able to do. So this is why I refer to that personally as the thumb of the Hebrew alphabet. All right. So that way we can gain an understanding as to why that particular thing is conveyed in that particular aspect. All right. Next slide, please. What we're looking at is the letter wow, and it makes the W not a V sound. And the meaning of it is hook. Many cases, this letter serves a Hebrew prefix meaning and. In biblical Hebrew, this letter can make a future tense past and a past tense future. This is referred to as the while consecutive. All right. So just want that to be pointed out for edification purposes. All right. So we're going to go on into the next letter in this particular regard. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is the letter Zain, and it makes the Z sound. And the meaning of it is the word weapon. All right. So, as stated, making the Z sound, be in the beginning of the word, the end of the word, or so forth. All right, for edification purposes. All right. So let's go on to the next one. Next slide. Thank you, brother. What you're looking at is the letter ket. Instead of spelling it as CHET, I spell it as KHET due to the possible confusion of it said making the CH sound as in cheese. It makes a strong KH sound. And the meaning of it is fence. You see this word in um, words like ak, which means brother, tapu ak, which means apple. All right. So just want this to be pointed out for a reason and purposes. All right. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at is the letter tet. All right. This letter makes the T sound, and the meaning of it is snake. All right. And you see this tet in the word tob, which means good. All right. So I just want to point that out. Or in the word nata, which means to plant. All right. So just want that to be noted for edification purposes. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at is the letter Yod. This letter makes the Y sound. This is the index finger of the Hebrew alphabet according to the way I teach. It serves as a prefix in verbs and a suffix in nouns. The meaning of Yod is hand. All right. So that way we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about in this particular regard. All right. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at is the letter kaf. It makes the K sound in words. The meaning of kaf is spoon or palm, like the palm of your hand. All right. So we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about in that particular regard. All right. Sometimes you'll see it as with or without the dagesh or the dot within it. All right. But it's still making the same sound in that particular regard. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at is the letter lamed, and it makes the L sound. It serves as a prefix in verbs regarding making a verb in the infinitive. The meaning of lamed means to teach. All right. So that way we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about in that regard. All right. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at here is where it says lamed used as an infinitive. All right. The Hebrew on the left hand side on the top says la asot otam. The Hebrew on the bottom says la abotam la tate lahem. Now, one of the things to point out is I highlighted the lamed in the infinitive aspect in the blue. All right, so you can see where the distinction comes into play. If you remember, I was saying that the lamed is used in verbs with showing the infinitive. All right, so la asot literally means to do. La asot otam literally means to do them. All right, the bottom line we see la abotam la tate lahem. La tate means to give, literally. All right. So this is how lamed is shown in its infinitive aspect. The matter of the infinitive in the lamed letter. The blue letters show the lamed used as an infinitive, as the infinitive. La asot, to make or to do. La tate, to give. The bottom line in Hebrew says la abotam, to their fathers, la tate, to give, lahem, to them. So this is something we want to point out for reference purposes. All right. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at here is the letter mem. It makes the M sound. The meaning of mem itself is water. In verbs, mem serves as a prefix, meaning of or from. All right. So that's also in nouns as well, where the mem serves as a prefix. All right. So I want this to be noted for edification purposes. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at is where it says mem used, meaning from. In the Hebrew, we see here, me eret mitzrayim mi beit abadim. Now, the highlighted part in blue is where the mem is shown, meaning the word from. Literal meaning of what we just read in Hebrew is from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, or as we know, Mitzrayim means straits. That's a whole nother subject. Okay, but me eret Mitzrayim mi beit abadim. The mem is shown in there, and both of those highlighted blue parts where the mem is there is shown, meaning the word from. All right. So we want this to be pointed out for edification purposes. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at here is the letter noon. Okay. And it makes the N sound. Also serves as a prefix in verbs. The meaning of noon means fish. All right. So we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about in this particular regard. This is the letter noon, making the N sound. All right. And personally, it's my favorite Hebrew letter. I don't know why, but it's just always been since I was a child. But just want that to be pointed out for a reason and purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. What we are looking at here is noon used in a verb as a prefix. Now, the Hebrew that you see there on the left hand side, the first part, the first word that is says na'aseh. Na'aseh means we will do or we will make. Now, the second part there, or the second Hebrew word you see there, is nirada. All right? Nirada means let us descend or we will descend, please. Okay, so just want that to be noted. Now, noon serves as a prefix in verbs, and it is the we or us in that regard. Okay, so let us go down. Let us make. Those aspects there is what I'm speaking of in that particular regard. The noon, as you see there, is what is highlighted in the blue. All right. So we were showing how it shows as a prefix in regards with verbs. All right. Next slide, please. Thank you, my brother. This is the letter Samek. It makes the S sound. The meaning of Samek means support. And you see this in words like sal, which means basket. All right. So just want that to be noted for edification purposes. All right. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at is the letter Ayin. All right. In many regards, it is said as a mute letter. However, some state that the actual sound is like a soft G sound. In the word Gomorrah, as in like Sodom and Gomorrah, it starts with the word Ayin. All right. The meaning of Ayin is eye, like the eye that you see with. All right. So we can gain an understanding in that particular regard. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you are looking at, brothers and sisters, is the letter pay. It makes the P or the F sound. The meaning of pay itself is mouth. All right. So that way we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about in that particular regard. All right. Okay. Now, it is generally understood that when this particular letter doesn't have the dagesh or the dot, that is when it is referred to as the fe. And when it does have it, is referred to as the pay. But just like the bait and the vate, the only difference is the way one is able to pronounce certain words at a certain time. So fey is really a variant of pay, just as much as vet is a variant of bet. All right. So we just want that to be pointed out for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at is the letter Zadeh, and it makes the TZ sound, as in the word Zippor, which means bird itself. In verbs, this letter is never dropped but removed to a later part of the word. That will be explained in future lessons. The meaning of Zadeh means fish hook. Some brothers and sisters actually pronounce this letter as Zadik. Doesn't make it wrong, but the word Zadik in that regard would mean righteous. All right, so you will see this letter said either said as Zadeh or sometimes as Zadik. All right, so just want that to be noted for edification purposes. All right. Next slide, please. What you are looking at here is the letter Kuf. The meaning of Kuf is monkey or the back of one's head. All right. The sound of Kuf is a QU or a KW sound, like queen. And you will see this in the word Kwadosh. All right. So just want that to be noted for edification purposes. All right. Now, I want to state this, and that is if anyone happens to have any questions regarding what we're going over, feel free to type it in the chat part here now, or feel free to comment later on when the video is posted up. Because once the video is posted, a person can go and review, stop and pause, rewind, stop and pause, review, and so forth and so on. All right. So just want that to be noted. But if there's any questions or comments regarding the alphabet as we went over, don't hesitate to comment inside the live chat. All right. So let's go on. Next slide, please. Thank you, my brother. What you are looking at is the letter Resh that makes the R sound. The meaning of Resh is leader or head. All right. So we just want that to be noted for edification purposes. All right. Resh makes the R sound. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at, brothers and sisters and elders included, what you're looking at, this is the letter Sheen, and it makes the SH sound, as in the word shalom. When the dagesh, which is the dot that you may see on the top of it, all right, is on the left-hand side, it is said by many as a S sound. This is simply a variant of the Sheen letter for phonetic purposes, and the meaning of it is tooth. Now, you will sit there and see that the word or Sheen is used in the word shalom. And as we know, what shalom means, what? Peace. It comes from the root word what? Shalom, which means to be complete. All right. So we want that to be noted for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at here, brothers and sisters, is the letter tau. This is actually said by some as thou, as a th sound. This is said to make, as stated, the T or the TH sound. This serves as both a prefix and a suffix in verbs. This is also a feminine letter. The meaning of tau is sign. So for those who may know or been following, hey and tau are feminine letters. All right. So that's just something to be pointed out for reference purposes. All right. So we're going to go on to the next part of this. Next slide, please. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. It says the tau used, I meant to say as a suffix and a prefix. All right. So just want that to be noted. What you're looking on the left-hand side, we see here the word shamata. The word means you heard. This is noted in the past tense. So the blue part that you see there on the far left hand side, all right, that serves as the suffix. All right. Now, what you're looking at on the right hand side, it says, as we noted there, the word tishma, which means you will hear. So now, when we go back to Tao, right, and it says this serves as both a prefix and a suffix in verbs, we can gain an understanding visually of what we're talking about. Okay. The root of each word is shama, which means to hear. All right. So we can gain an understanding of what we're talking in that particular regard. Next slide, please. Thank you. This shows the Hebrew vowels. The Qamats, Petak, Zere, Segol, Shawa, Kirik, and Kibbutz all go under the letter. The Kolam and Shuruk go next to the letter, with the Wow as a vowel holder. All right. So we want that to be pointed out for evidence purposes. As stated, the Qamats, looking at the top line, the Petak, the Zere, the Segol, the Shawa. Now jump to the second line, the Kirik and the Kibbutz. All of those go underneath the letter. Now I want to explain for those looking and they're seeing what is referred to as the Kataf, Kamatz, Kataf Petak, and Kataf Segol. Now, those particular things right there on the bottom side, we always remember Hebrew going from right to left. Those are basically saying that is a Kamatz, Petak, or a Segol, but it's supposed to have been said with a shorter aspect. For instance, the word E'ethe means I will do. So the Ayin has what is referred to as the kata segol or the segol kortan, according to some people. So instead of saying ese, some people say it's ese, but you're still saying the same word regardless. It's not as if it's said longer, the meaning of the word changes. So the last three on the bottom line there, when it says kataf, patak, kataf, kwamat, kataf, segol, those particular things are just saying that it's supposed to said shorter than a regular vowel aspect. All right, so we want to point that out for reasoning purposes. In the notes there says the kolam and the shiruk go next to the letter. We're going to show that as we go along in this particular aspect with the wow as a vowel holder. The other ones in this particular aspect have it to where they all go underneath the letter. One of the reasons why I personally do not endorse grammatria, which is basically saying that all Hebrew words must have the same numerical value and so forth and so on, is because if the author who's writing something, for instance, the word shalom, and doesn't have enough space to put the sheen, the lamed, the wow, and the mem, they can still say shalom with the sheen, the lamed, and the mem. But the letter wow has the numerical value of 6. So sheen, lamed, wow, and mem, spelling shalom, does not have the same numerical value as sheen, lamed, and mem without the wow. But yet the meaning of the word is still the same. So that's why personally I do not teach in here what is understood as grammatria form of Hebrew. All right. So just want that to be pointed out for reference purposes. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. The word we see here is chai, and it means life. Here's the point. Anytime we have a patak or a kwamat under any letter, I emphasize by capitalizing under any letter, and the following letter is a yod, the sound is I or I. I wanted to make sure I put that so it could be understood for edification purposes. Anytime you have any letter, be it a ket, a tau, a tet, an aleph, a yod itself, anytime you have any letter, okay, and you have a kwamat or a patak underneath it, and the next letter is a yod in the same word, it is always said as I, as in here we see kai. All right, so we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about in reading Hebrew for phonetic reasons. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. What we're looking at, brothers and sisters, is the word Adonai. All right. The matter is that the noon had a commas under it and a yod as the following letter. Thus, the sound is I, E-Y-E-I, or just the letter I. I'm just putting that there just to emphasize a point. I'm not saying that we should say EYE in English instead of the letter I when speaking of self. I'm not going there. I'm just saying in that particular aspect. The Hebrew that we see on the left hand side has the aleph with the qamats, pardon me, with the patak, the dalet with the kolam, and the noon with the qamats. All right. So Adonai, which means what? My Lord. All right. So we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about. The noon and that yod just goes to show when you have, as even shown here, the kwamat and the next letter is a yod, the pronunciation of that by default is the I sound. This is how you get the I in Hebrew, as in Kai, Adonai, Elohai, Kapai, so forth. All right. You see the word Kapai, meaning my hands in the book of Genesis. So I just want that to be noted for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. What we're looking at is the matter of the Shawah. The word here is Yisrael. The working of the Shawah is seen in the second letter under the seen, some may say a sheen letter. Okay? When a Shawah is used, the sound is joined to the letter preceding it, and then one continues reading or speaking the remaining part of the word. So, what we're looking at there in the highlighted part is where the Shawah is at. Yod, Sin, Resh, Aleph, Lamed. That spells, as we see there, Yisrael. All right. So the Yod with the Kerik makes the Yi sound. The Sin with the Shawah, as stated, when it's seen, you just join it to the letter preceding it. So Yod, all right, is the preceding letter. So you just have that Yod with the E is Yi. And then you have the Sin with the Shawah. So it's Yis, and then you continue either whether you're reading or speaking, you continue on with the rest of the word. Yis ends that particular part, Ra'el. Yis is that particular part, Ra'el. And this is something we want to point out for reference purposes, or as far as how the Shawah works. You will never, brothers and sisters, see the Shawah as either the first and the second part of the same word. With the first and second letter, you will not see that. You may see it with the second and the third, the second and the fourth, the first and the third, or the first and the fourth, but never with a shawah be with both the first and the second letter of a word. All right, so just want that to be noted for edification purposes. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. The matter of the Sofeet letters. This is the Kaf Sofeet. This, pardon me, in this one may see a Shawa or a Kwamatz as far as the vowels are concerned. In many cases, the Kaf Sofeet serves as a suffix meaning your or you in regards to nouns and verbs respectfully. All right. So just want that to be noted for edification purposes. Now let's look at the right hand side. Okay. And it says what? Banecha ubnotecha, meaning what? Your sons and your daughters. Now, what I highlighted there in the blue is where it's serving as a suffix. Banecha, meaning your sons. Ub noteka, and your daughters. So now, Bain is son and Bat is daughter. So now those are nouns. So when I was saying in the part on the left hand side where it says that kasofit serves as a suffix meaning your in regards to nouns showing a possession, that's what I'm talking about in that particular regard. When you see a kasofit, it is either saying your or you. Now, if it's a noun, it is saying your. If it's a verb that is attached with it as a suffix, it means you. Okay, we're going to explain what we're talking about in this particular regard. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at here, it says in the Hebrew there, ki ga'al tika, for I have redeemed you. The kasofit and any other sofit is put at the end of the word. Now, when you look at the part there with the gamel, the aleph, and the lamed, right, and then the tau and the yod, ga'al ti means I redeemed. Ga'al tika means I redeemed you. I'm not going to go too deep into the verbs aspect, but I'm just want to show how you can see a kasofit at the end of a word, and it means you, not your. But it only works that way when it's a verb. Redeem is a verb. All right. So we want this to be noted for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. What you're looking at here, brothers and sisters, is the word Mizrayim. The mem sofit makes the M sound at the end of words. As we already stated, all the sofits go at the end of a word. All right. The mem sofit makes the M sound at the end of words. What you see highlighted there in the Hebrew in the blue is where the mem sofit letter is. All right. So we just want that to be noted for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. The Hebrew there we see, brothers and sisters, okay? It says Omar Lazafon, which means I will say to the north. The part left there in the black is the noon sofit. The noon sofit makes the end sound at the end of a word. All right. So we want that to be pointed out for edification purposes. The noon sofit makes the end sound at the end of a word. All right. So as we see there in the black letter there, Omar Lazafon means I will say to the north. The word for north is Zafon. Lazafon means to the north. All right. So we want that to be noted for edification purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you, my brother. The fe or pay Sofit makes the F or P sound at the end of words. The Hebrew you see there is says et Yosef. Now I left the Fe Sofeet said by some as pay Sofeet in the blue so it will stand out. The word Yosef is transliterated as Joseph. Of Yosef means he who will add or adding or increasing. All right. So we want that to be pointed out. The Fe or Pay Sofeet makes the F or P sound at the end of a word. All right. So we can gain an understanding of what we're talking about. Next slide, please. Thank you, my brother. Brothers and sisters, what you're looking at in the Hebrew says Me'eretz meets Arayim. All right. Now we're just going to focus on the first word there that happens to end with the Zadeh Sofit. Make goes at the end of a word, making the th or the TZ sound at the end of a word. That is what is highlighted there in the blue. I wanted to highlight certain letters so it stand out. All right, as far as this presentation is concerned. May edits meets arayim. The zadeh, so feet goes at the end of a word. And that literally means from the land of Egypt, but more so correctly from the land of straits. We already went over the matter of Mizraim and straits and other lessons. All right, so we just want that to be pointed out for edification purposes. Okay, now that ends this particular lesson in regards to the Hebrew alphabet and review from 1 through 4, which is Hebrew class number 5. And we also went over the particular vowels. What I'm going to ask, brothers and sisters, and for anybody online, are there any questions that has to be posed concerning what we talked about and regarding to the Hebrew alphabet? All right, before this lesson is actually closed, so that way I can try to address it verbally while the lesson is still going on. As stated, this is a presentation brought to you from Shema Yisrael in regards to Hebrew edification for purposes. There will be a Hebrew lesson 6 and so forth and so on, but after each every fifth lesson, so that will be 5, 10, 15, 20, and so forth. I'm going to review what we went over in the past. All right, so that way we can deal with this meticulously. If you watch, brothers and sisters, from back in October, Hebrew lesson number 1, October of last month of this year, all the way to now, you will begin to sit there, and if you follow meticulously, I promise you, and study and take notes, I promise you, you're reading Hebrew. May not understand fully what you're reading, but by the time we go along, you will begin to know how to use the dictionary and so forth and so on. So you can build your vocabulary. Okay, so with that, we're going to say Torah for the time. Shalom. Mosai bless. Hallelujah. Amen.